You know what sound that is, folks? You betcha. That's another Noon Whistle. I'm Chris Trottier.
And I'm John Anzalone, and we're here with John Keckhaver, the Wisconsin Youth Apprenticeships Section Chief. Thanks for joining us, John.
Thank you, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, we're going to talk all things youth apprenticeship and hopefully educate us and our viewers today.
Sounds good.
So you being the Section Chief and someone that oversees youth apprenticeships in Wisconsin, I wanted to start out with the 1980s. And I recall guys and girls.
That was my decade, John, so this is good.
I love it. We're in the same one, John. I love it. I love that. All right. I got a friend, Chris, finally.
Yeah, well, takes a little while, but that's okay.
Yeah, the good ones you got to wait for. Where people just went to work. It was like, hey, I get work release. And tell us how youth apprenticeships evolved from that to where we are now.
Yeah, late 80s into the early 90s, there was a lot going on nationally around school to work is the term typically that's used. A lot of different approaches or programs being talked about. There was a big federal push, some federal money to incentivize and to allow the states to innovate and create some programming. Wisconsin passed its law in 1991, creating the Wisconsin Youth Apprenticeship Program. First class then was the next year, the 92-93 school year, saw our first group of youth apprentices in Wisconsin. It was about 20 or so, something like that. And they were all in the printing industry. And as you guys know, we've expanded in those last 30 some odd years into over 80 distinct occupations in Wisconsin.
Where did you feel that youth apprenticeships, talk about starting out, where did it really gain some strength? And it was like schools in the state, that everyone's on board, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the history of the program, you can see pretty steady growth, but there have been a few times when it's really jumped up, when it's really participation's really jumped up. Again, it's a voluntary program for everybody, including the school districts. You don't have to offer youth apprenticeships in your school district. So we started out with a very small number. This current year, we're over 98% of Wisconsin's public school districts that have a high school offer youth apprenticeship.
Wow. That's amazing.
So it's incredible. So, I mean, there have been a few points, like I said, where it's really jumped up. Obviously, the economy today and the demand for workers, the difficulty finding enough workers has been the most recent, I'd say, reason why we've seen a big increase in participation.
So talk a little bit, as somebody who's been connected to the youth apprenticeship program since I entered the administrative realm in 2004, talk a little bit about, I know we just got done with Apprenticeship Week last week, and there's been, obviously, if you follow social media or the DWD on social media, a lot of celebration coming out of the governor. This is one of those areas where everybody finds consensus and agreement that this is good for kids and good for our economy. What have you seen from a growth standpoint over the last X amount of years? You pick the number and the growth, and talk a little bit about, that number and some of the factors maybe that contribute to it.
Yeah, but that's an excellent point. I mean, there is consensus around this program. It's gotten support, throughout those 33 years or so. There've been sort of valleys and hills or whatever, but it's gotten support throughout this time. And that's really important. Before I get to the numbers, whenever you're talking about a workforce or employment related program, the continuity is very important. Nobody likes it if you create a program, 3 years later, you pull the rug out from everybody, you create another one, so that's the continuity of the YA program. That's probably the main reason we have the strength that we do. But yeah, we've gone, and you guys know some of these numbers, but we've just about quadrupled in the last 10 years in youth apprenticeship. Finished last year, the 23-24 school year, just under 10,000 youth apprentices statewide.
Wow.
Amazing.
So, it's the largest program.
And I think a couple of years ago, I remember like a $5,000 number.
Yeah. I mean, it was really, tripled like in the last 5 or 6. I mean, we've hit a period of growth where the charts, like that. Yeah, it's and again, it's I think due to a number of factors. The overall big one is the economy and the workforce shortages that have come about because of the demographic shift. We're all getting older, and so a lot of retirees, and employers really need to be able to find some mechanisms or some strategies for reaching out to younger workers. And I know we'll talk about that in a second, but YA has proven to be a very successful model for doing that.
Yeah. And one thing our viewers don't know, and John, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think what people don't understand is there are so many, the way Wisconsin has collaboratively structured this program and made it sustainable and also put in mechanisms to make it viable. So there's a couple of things that I just want all our viewers to know that they don't realize. So we're in the Gateway Consortium for our youth apprenticeship program. They write, Katie Groff and our high school partners at Gateway write a grant. That grant, they get additional dollars. For every YA, our school district gets reimbursed based on that grant allocation. We're right around $600 to $650 per kid. What also makes this really intriguing is, gosh, I'm trying to think of when, 2017-ish, the legislature passed Act 59. And then in Act 59, DWD started funneling money through DPI, through the CT incentive grant. And then they also, because it's an industry recognized certification, but it's also a certified work-based learning experience, we get additional dollars that way. So our dollars, this is a program that is viable and self-sustaining because we have dollars coming in for every kid. So when we talk about like why this is so successful, it's a win for the employers, it's a win for the school district, and most importantly, it's a win for the kids.
So
go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Spinning off that, Chris and John, I'd be interested in your opinion. I'm a parent or I'm a student and I'm thinking about doing this. What's the advantage of me getting involved in the youth apprenticeship program?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, and to Chris's points about the structure, I mean, we can spend some time on that too. I mean, the original design was really quite brilliant, I think, where and it's a state statute where we oversee the program at the state level, but we're able to provide funds, as you were saying, Chris, to local, what we call consortia. And you mentioned, Gateway. We have 40 consortia around Wisconsin. Those are basically collaborations of school districts, chambers of commerce, tech colleges, and so on that want to make sure the program is offered in their schools in their area. So the design is really interesting, and I think a big part of why it's so successful. But to the benefits, John, for the students, it's a great way to get not only exposure to, but real work experience in a career field they're interested in. I mean, you in the schools work with students. There's all kinds of career exploration activities these days after, academic and career planning law passed a few years ago, especially. So, students have these interests. Well, what are they going to do with them? Youth apprenticeship is a great opportunity to actually go to work in that field. All these other opportunities, volunteering or unpaid internships, all of those things have their place, in that high school experience. But youth apprenticeship is employment. I mean, they are getting real experience, a real work experience in a very supported way, right? You guys know this. Yep. Yeah, there's a mentor at the work site.
Yes.
There are you guys in the schools helping with schedules and just whatever is going on. I mean, it's an incredibly well-supported experience, I would say, for the students.
And one of the things what I love about it is I just met with and John Anzalone, you were a part of this. We just met with we have been meeting with the Sheriff's Department in Walworth County, because obviously we know this recently, fire protection and law enforcement was passed as a YA pathway. So we're looking to build something with our county partners. And it's so cool to see that, you have these kids, they have to get 450 hours. They can do 2 years of this. I mean, when we talk about they got to make minimum wage, well, let's be honest. The minimum wage for a YA right now is $15 an hour.
Oh yeah.
They're getting.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry. Yeah, I think across all of our programs, the average wage is about $13, but in some fields it's higher. I mean, it's great. Law enforcement and fire protection are a couple of our more recent programs that we were able to create. And that's part of our role at the state level is we pull together employers in these different fields and we say, what should youth apprentices learn on the job site? It's not just us sitting here coming up with all this ourselves. So employers are shaping the program. They're helping us build these programs. So right off the bat, we know there's demand in these fields. We know the programs themselves are relevant, to what employers' needs are. And we're at 83 different occupations right now, covering all 16 career clusters. So everything from construction and IT to healthcare and manufacturing, STEM occupations. You guys know this, just such a variety. So that's really one of the advantages too. I think any high school student can look at that list and find something they're interested in, or there's something that it matches what they are interested in already, and they can go out and get that experience. Sorry.
Is it valuable? Is the program valuable to find out maybe that you're not interested in something?
Oh yeah, I think so. I consider that a huge success. If you enter this program, you're working in a field that you are interested in or you're curious about, and you're continuing on in school, you're getting the related instruction, right? That's another piece of the program. Classes that you're taking that are related to the field. That's the basic apprenticeship model is the training and the work site and training in the classroom. They augment each other. So you've got that experience, but over a little bit of time, maybe you think, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't like directly working in a healthcare space, or maybe I want to work more this way, and they go a different route. I would say that's a huge success. They've had great experience. They've gotten some work experience, gotten all of the, employability skills and all those good things that just come with employment, period. And they've discovered something, about their interests. So I personally think that's a great success.
Well, I think the other thing too is they're getting paid. They're getting high school credit. And in our district, it's a weighted credit. Kids can get up to a half a credit per trimester. And John Anzalone's son was a YA and is still in the field as a plumber.
Sure.
So, right, plumbing, right, John? No, HVAC.
Plumbing, but he started out, he went in thinking he wanted to be in the electrical field and then found out, I don't think I want to do that. And then HVAC and I'm not so sure about that, and ended up in plumbing and has started a great career and is more than halfway through his apprenticeship.
Oh, that's great.
So as an employer, go ahead.
Yeah. So that was going to go probably the same direction. I mean, employers want to help these workers find that right spot, right? I mean, that's what we see. We hear so many great stories of employers working with these, juniors or seniors in high school, or youth apprentices, and even if that exact occupation isn't where they want to go, they've got this relationship with an employer, and everyone's invested into this relationship and to this experience. And so a lot of times the employer will open up other opportunities, in their business after discussing this with the youth apprentice. So a lot of great things are happening, that we hear about.
And I think to your point about the employer benefit, like obviously there's things they have to iron out on their end, culture, kind of the learning culture, the support, the mentoring, maybe some, of the insurance issues. But when you get that honed in, I always tell employers, like when it comes to your talent acquisition strategy, I can't give you the easy button, but I can sure give you the easier button. And as you just mentioned, John, there are companies around the state of Wisconsin. There are companies in our area that are using youth apprenticeship as really their talent acquisition. And they know that, hey, Elkhorn Area School District is offering manufacturing, welding, auto tech, culinary, hospitality, computer science, ag. I mean, I can just keep going and going and going, and they're going, yeah, we want to get in there because that's going to be our next talent pool.
Well, and for so long, it was difficult for employers to know how to get into that high school space or into that youth employment space. Who do we contact at the school? How do we get involved? There were many years there where that was difficult to happen, or they didn't, it was difficult to figure that out. Youth apprenticeship, I think, has been the most reliable or, user-friendly method of doing that. Because it's been around, because it's known in the schools, it's trusted as a successful program, a good thing for the kids, for the employers. That continuity again brings a lot of benefits. So employers we hear about frequently, they get involved in YA, they develop a program internally, like you're saying, to bring in youth apprentices as one of their main ways of building their own workforce pipeline for their business. And that then opens so many other doors in that high school space. They get involved in career fairs. They get involved in this and that. But it's that initial contact and relationship building with the schools that a lot of employers are figuring out, wow, when I do that through something like YA, it really opens up doors.
Well, and to your point, John, and this is kind of interesting. So it's 12 o'clock. We get on at 11:45. I've had face-to-face conversation with 3 employers between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. about opportunities and employment.
Sure.
And I think where I'm going with this is, and you mentioned this, when there used to be this, how do I get in contact with the schools? We hear often in schools, like I hear this question, and John Anzalone's heard me pose this question too often. Do schools still teach the trades? Right. And there's kind of this misinformation, and it's not the question's not wrong. It's why we do this show every day, to tell the story every week, to tell the people, no, there's a lot of transformational things happening in school, and they're aligned with industry, and we are pushing kids to being future ready, which could be a path directly into workforce military. But in closing, in kind of the end, kind of put a bow on my statement here. More school districts are identifying positions like my own that are working directly with youth apprenticeships to make sure that our employers have immediate access to transform the educational experience for kids.
In a similar way, we were talking earlier about how there are these supports for the student. It's not just a high schooler going off and getting a part-time job, that there's a lot more when you're a youth apprentice, more support, more learning. Similarly, there are a lot of supports for the employers that get involved.
That's right.
Having the student be in the schools where there is a school-based coordinator, every participating high school has to have somebody identified as the YA coordinator for that school. So there are these individuals there, and there are these supports. That's of incredible help to the employer. They develop these relationships with the schools or with the YA consortia. They can communicate about how it's going or what's going on, here with this, or maybe we should do some of this to reach out to more students, whatever it might be. So it's both on the student side and the employer side, where YA gives some really good supports, to the process and to each of the parties taking part. Yeah.
John, I will say this. That's a great way to end this show right there. Don't you think, John?
I do. And that's, it is. It's amazing. It's amazing to see when the light bulb goes on, when you're meeting with leaders from an industry or the county or whatever it is. And you go in with, I don't know if this will work, but we're willing to listen. And you come out with, we're in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then to see their eyes light up. I'll tell one brief little story. I'll try and keep it brief. Is all of a sudden we have a lot of incredible programming going on in our career and technical education and program. And we had a local automotive company come in, and they saw what we were doing in the automotive. I was walking out, and this individual, great man, he facilitates multiple dealership and service centers, and he said, I had no idea. I had no idea. We brought in another employer who saw our CNC machine and facility where Speaker Paul Ryan has visited and said, I had no idea. So to your point, all of a sudden you're seeing industry and schools come together and everybody's like, this is great.
Oh, yeah. And YA is just, it's probably too much to say, driving that, but it definitely is a piece of that development. And that's a significant economic or, workforce shift that has gone on. The direct relationship between employers and schools. And it's leading to a lot of good things. In the past, there was, it's also a field where, it's known as, or felt that things were very territorial. This is my space. This is this program. It's that program. YA is a good example of getting beyond all that and having groups engage with each other that are involved and find solutions together. You were talking about a lot of new programming. There are some incredibly innovative things going on. We like to think our programming, and we're trying to innovate and keep current and all of that. But just outside of us, employers and students are doing some amazingly innovative things as far as scheduling and post-secondary education and keeping those relationships going even while, more credentials and schooling is pursued. This probably the greatest myth is that, after you're in high school, you're gonna either go to school or you're gonna go to work. That is such a outdated, outmoded way of thinking. So many innovative things are going on that combine education and work in ways that are really helpful to both the student and the employer. That's what I love seeing probably the most.
I agree. Well, John, we appreciate you being on here. And boy, this has been John Anselm, this has been a heck of a 3-week celebration of evering YA, hasn't it?
It has. It's great. It's
all
great.
right. Well, we would be remiss if we didn't close with everybody's setting their scales back 15 pounds this weekend. So we're getting ready. We got the Packers on at 7:30. We got the turkeys are being brined. Everybody's ready. Let's close with this before we get off. We're going to go right around. We'll start with John Keckhaver, John Anselm, and I'll close. What is your favorite Thanksgiving side dish? Go, John Keckhaver.
Easy. Cranberry sauce.
Oh,
that's very Wisconsin of you.
Love it.
Very. John Anselm.
Going with the old carrot casserole.
Carrot casserole.
I love it. Oh, it's amazing. There's way more in there than that, but it's amazing.
I hope so.
Yeah. Mine is my wife makes a Brussels sprouts and bacon side that's absolutely delicious. So, but then again, I'll also take some mashed potatoes, gravy, and stuffing. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Mr. Keckhaver, thank you for pulling over. We appreciate your time. You're always such a great ambassador for the work, and everything you said is well appreciated. And we'll pass this video along. Mr. Anselm, Mr. Keckhaver, have a great Thanksgiving to you and your family, and all to the viewers. Have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your little break from work, school, or whatever you're taking a break from, and enjoy family. So thank you, everybody. And on that note, we got to go back to work.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
See you guys.